That's because Lance Hunt is Captain Amazing.
Oh, don't
here we
start
go.
that again. Lance Hunt wears glasses. Captain Amazing doesn't wear glasses.
He takes them off when he transforms.
That doesn't make any sense. He wouldn't be able to see.
CA, I'm doing my best. I think right now we should focus on the positive. Tonight was good.
Because I was worried it was, I don't know.
Pathetic! Amazing triumphs at a nursing home. That's great copy, Vic.
Look who we got. You again, wannabes. The city already has a superhero. Perhaps you've heard of him? Captain Amazing?
Don't mess with the volcano, my man. Because I will go Pompeii on your butt.
Oh, golly. You want big news, you have to have big fights. A superhero needs a supervillain, and thanks to you, we've got none left.
Then get the Deathman.
Deathman is dead.
Really?
Casanova Frankenstein is locked up in a nut house.
Now there was a supervillain. That voice, such pure evil. The battles we used to have, extraordinary.
Used to. That's the problem, Captain. Used to.
Hello, Champion City. Captain Amazing, what a surprise.
Champion City's best-known billionaire, Lance Hunt, has disappeared. Police hope to enlist the help of Captain Amazing in the search for Hunt, but have so far failed to contact the city's beloved superhero.
Tomorrow night, I'm going to kill you.
Right, that's the part that really doesn't work for me. Well, maybe it's time to level the playing field. I'm talking about recruiting. There's plenty of guys out there who would kill to get in on our action.
Yes, this one should stick.
State your name and power. I am the Waffler. With my griddle of justice, I bash the enemy in the head.
I'm the Ballerina Man.
I don't need to see that. Look, no offense, kid, but we're about to go up against a really powerful supervillain, Casanova Frankenstein, okay?
Am I too late to try out?
Sorry. You'll have to pretend to be a superhero somewhere else.
Really?
You're in.
Welcome aboard. Guys!
You guys just be sure to jump in when the action starts. You do your share, we'll keep you around. We think you did something bad to Captain Amazing. We would like you to tell us where he is.
Captain who? This name does not ring any bells with me.
The city's in peril, Lucille.
I knew I should have brought my large pie server.
July 22nd, Mystery Men premiered in the United States and made its way across the country in early August. It didn't arrive in the UK till 6 months later and was poorly distributed, getting a limited release. With a budget of $68 million, it only recouped $33 million worldwide, becoming a huge flop at the box office. The reviews from critics at the time were certainly mixed, with many feeling it had a fantastic cast and also felt it was a movie ahead of its time. But the jokes just didn't work for some people, and they brushed it off as a forgettable movie. When it arrived on DVD, it found the audience it was sorely missing, and became a cult favourite in a short space of time. Mystery Men was based on the Dark Horse comic series, being loosely based on the Flaming Carrot comics written by Bob Burden. Flaming Carrot was seen as a parody on various aspects of the superhero. He was also the founding member of the Mystery Men. I was never familiar with these comics, and the movie itself only takes on a few of the characters, such as Mr. Furious, the Shoveler, the Sphinx, and Dr. Heller. The main character, Flaming Carrot, was never put into the film or mentioned, so I think the hardcore fans of the series may have been disappointed with the movie and its adaptation. I think the way the story was handled and how it was marketed and sold as an original movie, any tie into the comics weren't really focused on. I'm sure the audiences had no clue of the movie's true origins. they did produce a comic book based on the film, which was published in 2 issues to help push the connection, but only in a small capacity. The movie was directed by Kinker Usher. Kinker was well known in the industry for his work in commercials, and this would be his only directing duties on a feature film. It's not uncommon for studios to hire directors with little experience with working on features. Many directors come from commercials or music videos and are often hired because of their strong visual styles and are often cheap. The screenplay was written by Neil Cuthbert, who hadn't had much success with his screenplays, his biggest hit being Hocus Pocus, but his biggest flop was The Adventures of Pluto Nash. Now, we all know scripts are changed over time and sometimes for the worse by the studio or the director, but I think Pluto Nash messed up his options to get more work. The script for Mystery Men had additional rewrites by Brent Forrester, who was brought in to spice up the dialogue. The film was shot in late October of 1998, and they finished shooting principal photography in February of 1999. The production didn't go that smoothly. Because of the huge cast and many being comedians, they all wanted to have their input into the movie and their scenes, often fighting for more screen time and changes to the dialogue. When you've got a director who worked only on commercials and then suddenly being surrounded by many vocal actors, with some may say have big egos, it's going to be a stressful shoot to try and satisfy everyone and maintain the tone. The director, I believe, struggled to please all of them and did let them ad-lib a lot of their dialogue, which resulted in many scenes being deleted to maintain a suitable runtime. Some important scenes were trimmed. Comedies often have a lot of scenes cut out. You can't have a movie bombarded with jokes when you're trying to tell a story and sell the idea of a bunch of wannabe superheroes, very much in the case of this movie. There were rumours floating about that Tim Burton shot this film under the name of Kinker Usher. Tom Waits also mentioned this in an interview, or I believe a book that was published, but these rumours are entirely false. I'm not sure how these stories ever came about, maybe due to the frustrations on set and someone decided to fabricate this bizarre lie. There is no strong evidence to suggest that it's true, because there is plenty of footage and information out there that shows Kinker working on it and his true identity. He even cameos in the movie as one of the guys in the diner. If you are still not convinced, you have to remember that Tim Burton was shooting Sleepy Hollow at this point. Due to the frustrations of making the movie, Kinker decided to return to the commercial world and didn't want to deal with making movies anymore. The movie has a huge cast of characters with many well-known actors. Some of them have gone on to have big careers in the last decade, but at the time I imagine weren't as expensive to hire as they are now. Ben Stiller plays Roy, known as Mr. Furious. He is a superhero who uses his short temper to call upon his anger to make him super strong. But most of the time he fails to bring out his power and makes a complete arse of himself. Roy lives alone and works at a junkyard stripping vehicles of their parts to be sold on. William H. Macy plays Eddie, known as the Shoveler, a sewer worker turned superhero who wields a shovel as his main weapon. He is the most level-headed out of the group and has to deal with his superhero demands and his family life. His wife wants him to quit being a superhero and even threatens to leave him if he doesn't focus on the family. The Simpsons voice actor Hank Azaria plays Jeff the Blue Raja. He is a superhero who throws cutlery with great accuracy. He lives with his mother and works at a bridal shop, which is only revealed in the deleted scenes, very much like the Shoveler. Seeing him work is cut out. Jeff puts on a posh British accent when he fights crime. Janine Garofalo plays Carol the Bowler. She's a reluctant superhero only out to revenge her father. She has amazing bowling skills. She wields a crystal bowling ball that contains the skull of her dead father Carmine the Bowler, whom Tony P killed years earlier. Greg Kinnear plays Lance Hunt, aka Captain Amazing, Champion City's local superhero. His ego has taken over and he is desperate to remain in the public eye and keep his sponsors happy. He pines over his previous exploits and wants to relive his glory days and continue to be the #1 superhero. Jeffrey Rush plays the movie's main villain, Casanova Frankenstein, a criminal genius who is completely mad. He has plans to destroy Champion City and take over the world with his new invention, the Psychofraculator. Paul Rubens plays the Spleen, a superhero who can deploy lethal farts to knock out his victims. The director was happy Universal Studios allowed for Paul to be cast. Paul had hit the tabloids a few years back due to his exploits in his private life. The always reliable Wes Studi plays the Sphinx, a terribly mysterious superhero who can use his mind to cut guns in half. He becomes the spiritual leader and uses simple words of wisdom to help the team, which always infuriates Mr. Furious, who instead calls him Captain Conundrum. He has been keeping a close eye on the group, which is only revealed in the deleted scenes, as you see him working tables at a takeaway restaurant. Kel Mitchell, the star of Kenan & Kel and Good Burger, plays the Invisible Boy, a superhero that can only become invisible if nobody is looking. Tom Waits plays Dr. A. Heller, a mad scientist who aids the Mystery Men by making non-lethal weapons for them to use, and also has a thing for older ladies. Claire Volani plays Monica, the diner waitress who becomes Mr. Furious's girlfriend. At first, she doesn't show any interest in him at all, because he likes to remain in character to impress her, but once he shows his true self, she warms to him very quickly. We have the famous stand-up comedian Eddie Izzard playing Tony P, the leader of the Disco Boys. The film is littered with random cameos, Michael Bay as one of the frat boys, and Dane Cook as the Waffler.
Waffle Man! I am the Waffler! Golden crispy! Bad guys are history!
The movie opens in Champion City, which is under the watchful eye of Captain Amazing. The city also inhabits many other wannabe superheroes who are trying to do their best to keep the peace. Mr. Furious, the Shoveler and the Blue Raja attempt to make a name for themselves by trying to defeat the Red Eyes in an old people's home. They fail to save the day and Captain Amazing interferes and takes all the glory. However, Amazing is finding that his effectiveness at fighting crime has practically made his job obsolete. And without any worthy adversaries remaining, some of them are either dead, in exile or still in jail, his corporate sponsors are beginning to pull their funding. To help satisfy his ego, Amazing uses his alter ego, billionaire lawyer Lance Hunt, to argue for the release of insane supervillain Casanova Frankenstein. Mr. Furious and his friends are debating they need to find sponsors to get their names out there, but the Shoveler and the Blue Raja just don't have the money. As they leave their local diner, Mr. Furious notices Tony P is back in town and decides to follow him and ends up at Casanova's mansion. Captain Amazing's plan to save the day backfires. Once Casanova reunites with Tony P and his Disco Boys, he blows up the insane asylum. Amazing comes to the rescue but is outsmarted by Casanova Frankenstein.
Oh, Lancey. You really are so predictable.
And he tells him his plan to unleash a doomsday device called the Psychofraculator, which lethally bends reality. Mr. Furious, while spying on Casanova, discovers Amazing's capture and informs the others. After a failed attempt to rescue Amazing, the three realise they need to recruit more superheroes to join them in their battle to defeat Casanova. They meet the Invisible Boy, who already has a huge network of contacts. They attempt a tryout at the Shoveler's home. The Spleen and the Bowler join them. The team is now complete, and they have their first victory as they encounter Casanova Frankenstein and attack his car. While drunk from celebrating their victory, the team is nearly killed in retaliation by Tony P and the Disco Boys, but the Sphinx saves them at the last minute. The Sphinx decides to train them and give them guidance. The Shoveler feels they need leadership and the Sphinx is the right man for the job, but his methods annoy Mr. Furious, who feels he is losing control of the team and just wants to save Captain Amazing without the need to be trained. They figure they need extra firepower and seek out mad scientist Doc Heller, who specialises in non-lethal weaponry, to equip them to take on Casanova Frankenstein and save Captain Amazing. The large majority of the visual effects for Mystery Men were handled by the FX company Rhythm and Hues. They had 6 to 8 months to get all the visual effects finished, the most complicated parts being the death of Captain Amazing and the attack on Champion City. The director didn't give them much guidance on how to visualise many of the sequences, and other members of the production lent their hand to help direct the team to finish the work. The death of Captain Amazing took months to complete and was built up in 6 stages, but was trimmed in length, ruining the pace of the shot. The effect itself is not detailed in its textures. In the commentary for the film, the director said the FX company had to create a new algorithm to create this effect, so props to the team for producing a new visual effect, but more detail would have been nice. The attack on the city was far longer than what we actually see. It's heavily trimmed down as well. You still get a good sense of what the damage is, but doesn't really give much grandness to the destruction, making the city seem very small in comparison to what we see in the opening shots. The film also incorporates miniatures for the attack on the asylum and the eventual destruction of Casanova's mansion. For the time, the effects were very impressive, and for the most part have stood up to scrutiny. There are the odd effects that look a bit cartoony, such as the death of Casanova. The director revealed in the commentary that the end battle was a bit muddled, due to the script changes and the ending being cobbled together from older drafts of the screenplay. The destruction of the fraculator was changed to incorporate more scenes of the bowler. Having her bowling ball destroy the machine proved more successful in creating an epic finale. Originally they planned to open a canned tornado, which you can see in the deleted scenes, but having her father's skull destroy the machine seemed like the right way to go, creating a more satisfying ending and wraps up the bowler's character nicely. Stephen Warbeck composed the score to Mystery Men with additional work by Shirley Walker. Stephen is a British composer who first started out working extensively on TV series and moved into film scoring. He came to many people's attention for his work on Shakespeare in Love. Stephen Warbeck enjoyed working with director Kinka Usher and felt the idea of the movie was very good, but wasn't happy with the final results. He felt the many changes to the film due to a screen test hurt the movie. Because of the changes to the final edit, the producers hired Shirley Walker to come in and rearrange the score to make it fit the new running time. The score was never officially released. I have no idea why Universal decided not to publish the soundtrack. Many films that were flops often still get a soundtrack release, so it's puzzling as to why no music was published. If you really want to obtain the music, there are a number of bootlegs floating around, which do sound perfect. No dialogue or sound effects, just pure music. Here's hoping it gets a proper release at some point. It is a great score with a great mix of styles. Some parts sound a bit like Danny Elfman's Mission Impossible and Batman soundtracks. It's hard to know what part of the music is Stephen Warbeck's and what is Shirley Walker's. If a complete set was released, it would help clarify those issues. The movie includes quite a lot of rap and pop music throughout. You have the classic disco tunes by the Bee Gees and the Tramps, but the song that was most associated with the film was All Star by Smash Mouth. To me, this was the song that reminded me of the film. The song was used again and again in other movies, making it feel a bit stale after a while, Shrek being the most obvious one to take advantage of the song. An album was released with all the pop music used throughout the film, but that didn't even include any of the tracks from the actual score. You often have one or two tracks, but with this release you get nothing. You can get this soundtrack easily on iTunes or secondhand on eBay and Amazon. I was first made aware of Mystery Men when I went to the cinema and saw the trailer. I was pretty excited to see the movie. It looked funny and it felt like it was doing something different with the superhero genre. When it came to its UK release, it wasn't playing in my local cinema, which surprised me because they would always play new releases, especially a big movie such as this. I checked cinemas outside of Cambridge and the closest cinema showing it was an hour away, and only a week later it had disappeared from their listings. It just came and went. I was gutted, but luckily it arrived on DVD that year and I finally got to see it and I wasn't disappointed. Its use of comedy and satire about superheroes was refreshing to me, and the deadpan humour and interaction between the main cast was a delight to watch. The gags aren't shoved in your face but are just played out as a subtle part of the scene. One of my favourites is when Roy attempts to catch a sweet in his mouth but totally misses.
Barkeep, another round for my sweet team of super friends. Barkeep, another round.
The film makes fun of all the cliches that come with being a superhero, like Roy and Eddie's disagreement about Captain Amazing and Lance Hunt, how he removes his glasses to transform, but Eddie explains he wouldn't be able to see without them. In the deleted scenes, they talk about the classic catchphrases, such as Up, Up and Away and Shazam. Even though the characters believe they are superheroes, 90% of them don't exhibit any superpowers. Captain Amazing is the only one who seems to have powers to face evil, but is easily outsmarted due to his blinding ego striving for success. The Mystery Men seem more concerned about their outfits and what comes with being a hero than actually thinking about whether their abilities could be qualified as superpowers. All the characters have mini-story arcs that see them eventually use their powers, such as the Invisible Boy, but in every other scenario he is totally pointless to the team. I suppose that's really the main joke, that they are all totally useless as individuals, but as a team they can somehow make use of every individual power. They are like a cheap version of the X-Men. They also express that the public seem to be losing interest in superheroes. Captain Amazing is losing his sponsors due to the lack of crime, whereas Roy and his friends have apparently been in the crime fighting business for 12 years, but just can't get noticed. Monica from the diner doesn't seem at all impressed with what they do. She doesn't know how badly they suck, but still fails to show any enthusiasm about serving a group of supposed superheroes. I think that's the clever thing about the film. It touches upon so many different aspects of the genre and wraps it up in a nice parody. It's a nice demonstration of what it might be like if superheroes really existed in our world. But because it's set in this alternative reality, it lacks that real world believability, whereas more recent films that deal with wannabe superheroes like Kick-Ass and Super manage to capture that sense of realism, so I think they are probably more successful with their parody on the genre. Mystery Men was made in 1999, so filmmakers were thinking differently about how to approach a comic book movie if they decided to return to the story. Now I'm guessing it would follow a similar style to Kick-Ass, but Mystery Men kind of got there first, so you have to give them credit for that. The visual style of the movie does well to replicate the familiar colours and lighting that dominated comic book films of the 90s, and I think Mystery Men was the last to have that distinctive look. Some might look at it and think it looks very much like Joel Schumacher's Batman films. Mystery Men doesn't use on-set production lights to enhance the visual look, but instead uses the production design and costumes to sell the comic book style. The director went for an interesting design for the city, borrowing many visual elements from as early as the 1920s up until the 90s, a bit like the animated Batman series, which had modern technology but with a 1930s-40s flavour. The street level scenes also have an Asian flair to them, making it look like it jumps straight out of Blade Runner. The director of photography, Stephen H. Burham, also lit the shadow, so he had some experience with superhero flicks when he came to work on Mystery Men. Both movies exhibit similar lighting styles, especially for the nighttime scenes, but he really pushes the crazy angles and colour for Mystery Men. Many scenes were deleted from the movie to combat its lengthy runtime, but the film still has pacing issues. I think a tighter edit could have been made, and possibly some scenes dropped to include the ones they left out. As I mentioned earlier, you see Eddie and Jeff doing their real jobs, which adds a bit more to their characters, but we also see Eddie begin to lose faith in Roy. Eddie has a few drinks and speaks his mind, suggesting he is hurting the team and Roy's attack on Casanova's car was embarrassing, but Roy just brushes it off and talks his way out of it, making Eddie believe that he hasn't done anything wrong. I think these moments show that Eddie is thinking more clearly and that Roy is not helping the team, and in the theatrical cut you don't really get that sense of conflict among the ranks. The movie often sacrifices interesting story elements in favour of more jokes. Some jokes are great, but others, like the watermelons on Roy's feet and the spleen getting his leg humped by a skunk, I feel fall flat. With the viewer being thrown straight into this world and immediately seeing Captain Amazing coming to an end of his popularity, you do get a sense you are missing the opening act, or some credible backstory to the characters. It's like it thinks you know these superheroes and where they are in their lives. I don't think it does enough groundwork to put you straight into this new world. There are nuggets of information and dialogue to suggest what is going on, but it feels a bit unfocused in its main story. The film knows what it's trying to do, but I feel the audience have been left to fill in the blanks and just accept what they are seeing and to go along with it. The love story of Roy and Monica is a bit confusing. She seems totally disinterested in Roy, yet shows signs of interest once he is alone and displays some of his true character, and then she comes around to showing support for him very quickly. It's like a sudden change of character. She wants him to be himself and not pretend to be something he is not. It's the advice that makes him show his true colours and come to her rescue, so she ends up showing support for his powers, which she wasn't in favour of previously. All the actors do a great job with their characters. Jeffrey Rush chews up all his dialogue and seems to be having a great time playing Casanova. Ben Stiller is so good at showing this false rage and hiding how inept he is at being a superhero. William H. Macy plays it so straight. It's like he's in a Coen Brothers movie. His encouraging speech to get the team fired up to take on Casanova Frankenstein is such a great scene and shows he really has the ability to be a great team leader, but is way too polite to step up to the challenge. Paul Rubens is a fantastic character actor, and his speech impediment is pushed so well for excellent comic relief. The fart gags and saying "pull my finger" is a tired joke, but I think fart gags are brilliant. I love that toilet humour. But Mystery Men doesn't do it as well as, say, Rick Mayall in the TV series Bottom. Hank Azaria is marvellous as the Blue Raja. The running gag of him having no blue on his costume always gets me laughing. because his excuse is so long-winded that anyone who questions his outfit just gives up once he starts explaining himself. Greg Kinnear is so good at playing Captain Amazing. It's a huge shame his character gets killed off due to his short temper and incompetence. I just wish he stuck around for a bit longer. Kel Mitchell provides the best performance I had seen from him at that point. I was never a fan of the Keenan and Kel TV show, but in this movie he really demonstrates his comedic timing and acting ability. Janine Garofalo's relaxed approach to acting really fits her character, but seeing her short temper flare up around Mr. Furious creates these classic comedy moments as their anger bounces off one another. It was with Janine's encouragement that Ben Stiller came on board the production, and it shows how well they work together when they start bickering on screen. Eddie Izzard is unfortunately totally wasted in this movie. He gets hardly any dialogue and his comedic talents are barely used, making you wonder why they cast him. He looks great in his outfit and with his mad hairdo, but I don't think he ad-libbed his lines and stuck to the script, hence why he doesn't get much dialogue to push his character. There are some people that found Mystery Men to be a forgettable movie and didn't find it funny. It really comes down to one's personal preference on what you deem to be comedy. It's pretty straightforward on what approach they are going with. You could argue its story is a bit lackluster, but the jokes will stick around in your head. They are certainly memorable. The action is not that spectacular and it won't blow your socks off, but its key value and source of entertainment is its use of dialogue and humour. Some of the best scenes are when Mr. Furious, the Shoveler and the Blue Raja interact with each other. You get a great sense of their long-term friendship. They all support one another and know each other's flaws. It's these moments that keep you coming back to the film. The first hour of the movie is great, but then admittedly it kind of loses its momentum and energy as it draws to an end. Despite everything, I still have a huge fondness for it. I loved it when it came out and I still really enjoy it to this day. It's a shame it didn't get the audience or reception it deserved at the time, but hopefully some of you will feel compelled to watch it if you never had the chance before. There are loads of hilarious moments that will keep you smiling, but don't expect something on the level of the more modern superhero flicks. It is what it is. It's a parody on the genre that has enough heart and style to give it credibility. The actors' performances are all solid, and I think that's good enough to warrant a recommendation for The Mystery Men.
Casanova Frankenstein is no ordinary villain. To fight him, you must have extraordinary skill.
Whoa, thank you. Thank you for that little piece of information, because I wouldn't have thought that we needed extraordinary...
Excuse me. Does anybody have any manners? Do you mind?
Do I mind what? Do I?
Silence!
Hey, we have to separate you two.
You are not ready to face so great an enemy. Not until you have vanquished the enemy within yourselves.
He goes right up to the point of being like confusing.
It's leadership. It's what we've been missing.
As you can see, I have taken Captain Amazing out of the picture. It's time for us to rule! Tonight, at midnight, I'm going to do to Champion City what I have done to its greatest superhero.
It's Roy. That's my name. My real name's Roy.
Just be Roy.
I am a wannabe, a true wannabe, in the worst sense of the... You guys are gonna have to go fight this battle without me.
Start doubting your superpowers, man. You are shafted.
If I had any superpowers to doubt, I guess I would be in trouble, but I don't. What do I do? I go, what do I go...
Boy, what are you talking about? You lived in a box once.
Precisely, that story's legendary.
Well, actually, the driver kind of had his foot on the accelerator, just in the beginning, just to get it going. Then it actually was me, but he kind of... Oh, shit.
Ooh.
It's time. Let's go. This is our fight, whether we like it or not. Just we few. We're not your classic superheroes. We're not the favorites. We're the other guys. We're the guys nobody ever bets on.
It's 11:30 already. 30 minutes till Casanova blows up the city.
All right, now listen. We've got a blind date with Destiny.
And it looks like she's ordered the lobster.
Wreck you later, Franken puss.
If you enjoyed the video, you can find more on my YouTube channel, and also you can follow me on Twitter. If you want to help support the channel, you can donate through Patreon and receive monthly perks such as updates on the latest news on my channel, early access to reviews and commentaries before they go live on YouTube. Even the smallest donation can help keep this channel going. Thank you.